we already got the car up in the air right now, and we already began working on some of the things that we need to do to get the car prepped for the coolant change. Let's see where else. We're doing the thermal gasket on the intake manifold, as well as any maintenance on this part. I'm thinking of painting it, giving it a nice, clean, fresh look. Also, thermostat. Show you, I got these Skunk 2 racing radiator hoses. We're gonna put these on, as well as new clamps to go along with it. We got Honda's Type 2 antifreeze coolant ready to go. Carbotech brake pads that are going on the car. I believe these are the XP10s and the XP8s for the front. Give us some good stopping power for when we're at the track. So everything you see here is getting ready to go on, and the car has been kind of sitting. I've been busy with the garage, and I got a video for that coming up soon where you guys will see the whole garage makeover. But for now, we already went ahead and removed the intake. Now we got the covers removed underneath the car, where I'm going to show you where we drain the coolant from. And I also removed this trim piece right here. So this is all getting ready to go, but I am draining the coolant first, so we don't have anything dripping out in large sums when we disconnect the hoses and such. And we'll go along for the whole process, and I'll try to film as much as I can to show you guys everything. But this is where we're at right now, and we're gonna get going and start draining the coolant. I got my little helper with me again here today, Adrian, and he's gonna help with tools and handing me off all kinds of things that I'm gonna need to get the work done while I'm underneath the car, and he's gonna be my little helper for this whole project. Say hi, Adrian.
Hi.
You getting ready to help me out?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. So there's the drain for the radiator, and I already went ahead and removed the plastic trim piece that you see here. This cover covers this whole area down here, and just look for that little turning knob right here. That's your drain. You don't necessarily need to remove the trim piece to get to that, but I feel like it's gonna be a cleaner job if we get that trim piece. That way the coolant is not splashing around, hitting up all the trim pieces and getting around everywhere. So I think you'll have better luck removing that, and it'll be a cleaner job. When getting ready to drain, make sure you undo the cap up top. And always, guys, when you're doing this, be careful. Make sure that the car is cooled down and it's not hot. That way you don't have coolant shooting out at you. So remove the cap up top, and then let's get back down here again. We'll undo the knob, and hopefully this does not go flying around everywhere on us. There we go. And it is we're getting splashed. So let's get out of here. So there you go, guys. That's what it looks like. Like a little faucet. So while that's draining down below, we're gonna go ahead and start disconnecting the hoses over here and here. From the intake manifold, pretty much get everything out that we can to disconnect it. After we remove this, the plastic piece, then we're gonna disconnect the injectors and remove the fuel. I know we're gonna get some drainage over here, some fuel, so we're gonna do our best to keep this as clean as possible without creating a huge mess. And then off to take the remainder of the intake manifold. All right, so we got the intake manifold removed. It can be a little bit of a pain in the butt to remove. So let me show you everything you have to remove. So these two specialty ones, these are the ones that are down here, and you can get to them from the bottom of the car with a super long extension. So these are down here. Then you got 4 bolts and 2 nuts up here. A nut over here, and you got bolt, 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 and I'm sorry, yep, you got one down here too. So this one can be a little bit difficult to get to, but very manageable. The other one I want to show you is a little bit of pain in the butt. So we disconnected this hose here. The other one, so there's this bracket. You'll see this is mounted on the manifold itself. So you can't, these connectors, they can be tricky. You think you can remove them, but you can't. As you see, they're very hard. They're on the bracket. So the best thing to do is remove the bolt that's holding this to the manifold. It's a 10mm bolt. Remove that, and this comes off, and from there is a piece of cake. So this is what it looks like when everything's removed. Now the next thing to do is remove everything from the fuel system, and get this piece out, and we'll go from there. And I'm gonna go ahead and do the work off camera, and I'll show you everything that you have to remove to get to it. So there's many ways to take this off. I could have gone and removed the throttle body off and gone through that route, but you really don't need to. You see, you got these 2 hoses. You can remove those. This one right here, and the throttle body can stay intact. You just have that one giant connector right here, and the 2 hoses that go right over here, and this sucker will come right out. So not too difficult. You just gotta have the right tools to get to everything. So next, let's get to work on removing this whole mess right here. So one thing I want to mention here is when removing the fuel rail, you got these 2 ground connectors, one here and one here. There's 2 10mm bolts holding this down, and then you got all the connectors you got to undo. You got 4 of them, and the way you remove this whole system now is, if you look here closely, there's this little tab here. You just pull out on this tab here, likewise, and you just lift, just like that. Very easy. So that's one way to do it. And it is out. So we're just gonna go ahead and let this hang out over here. Next is a fuel rail, and you just gotta, sorry guys for the bad angle, trying to get you guys some good views here. All right, so this right here, you pull out on these to release this from holding that, and it comes right out. So like this, it's just like a little snap feature. See if I can get you a good view. Yep, see that right there? You just pull out. And you can use a screwdriver to do this, or pliers. Kind of difficult with one hand, but I'm gonna go ahead and try to show you guys using those pliers. And they come out just like that. I'm gonna go ahead and set this up here. Remove the other one as well. Just like that. Really quick. And it's kind of difficult to do this all in one hand, but they do come off really easy. And I believe this one here next is, you flip this one up just like that to expose that. See, this thing just kind of hooks right here. Then you drop it on top. Very, very simple. Remove that one, set that out with the rest of the clips. And now this, you just pinch here and we got a little fuel that's gonna come up. So make sure you guys have a towel ready. So, just gonna set this towel right here. And pinch and pull out. Yep, getting some fuel. So and that is how that is done. Now I'm gonna remove this because if I don't and I leave it on there, we're gonna drop it, we're gonna lose it. Who knows where it's gonna end up. So there you go. Just gonna tuck this over here. Again, leave the towel. I might have a little fuel dripping. So, all right. So we popped off the fuel rail. You guys can see when you do this, a lot of fuel will come out because this is full of fuel. So keep that in mind. When you do pull that out, be ready to catch some fuel. Now, what I recommend is, at least my train of thought is, if we leave the fuel injectors in here and we don't pull them out, you know, we avoid getting any dirt to fall in there, because there could be some dirt in those crevices that if we pull it out, it could fall in there and it's not good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave the fuel injectors in there and we're gonna go ahead and undo all the bolts and nuts that hold this part of the intake manifold to the cylinder head. So you pretty much see you got one bolt here, nut, bolt over there, and you got 3 bolts there you see at the bottom, all along there. 1, 2, 3. We remove those, and also don't forget this one here in the corner. You remove those and this whole piece comes out. All right, and then we'll remove the fuel injectors from there. All right, so we got all the nuts and bolts out for this portion of the intake manifold. Now this will start wiggling out once you get everything, so you want to be very careful pulling this out. Oh, it looks like I forgot one thing. I gotta disconnect that line down here. You can see you got this big thick rubber hose with a clamp down here. You just gotta pinch that, slide it out. So we popped out the last portion of the intake manifold. Here you guys go. It's right here. Some of these hoses are really hard to remove. That one goes to the metal fitting. It's a little bit difficult. We're gonna try to get that one out a little bit later, but it was easier to pull this one off. This one was on the plastic housing over there for the thermostat. So we went ahead and pulled this one off, and now that is off. I'm gonna set this down here on our workbench. Can go ahead and carefully remove the OEM manifold gasket. You can see now, once you guys do this, you have to be very careful not to get any dirt in these ports right here. So do your best to kind of wipe away any sand material that you may see accumulated there from during the removal. Try to keep this area as clean as possible. We're gonna go ahead and clean up all these surfaces and get them all nice and tidy, so we have a nice clean surface, bonding surface with the new gasket. But yeah, and just take a peek, see what's going on in there. We can see if I can get a good angle. It's a little bit difficult to see, but everything looks super clean in there. There we go. That works much better. Alright, so here is the thermostat. You guys can see right here with shining the light to it. And I already went ahead and removed the hose from it. And it's right here. This is the new one that's going on there. So this was the hose. This is the one from Skunk too. I already transferred the pinch clamps over to the new one. But yeah, I already took the old one off. Now the thermostat is going to come out. The thermostat's got 3 bolts that hold it down. And I'll show you guys on the new one. So this is the new thermostat, and you got 1, 2, 3 bolts holding it down. And then this other opening here is for that wire harness. This little clip right here. This clip goes into that opening right there. So yeah, I believe they are 10mm bolts. So good luck, have fun taking those out. So we got the thermostat out. Now an issue that arose was that we got one out pretty easy. This was the top one. The other one snapped, as you guys can see right here. It snapped, and well, that sucks. This one again was a pain in the ass to come out, but it managed to come out, and you see it's stripped out. So we're gonna have to get some new hardware for this thermostat, and then do something about the one that broke off. That one is still stuck in there, so we're gonna have to figure out a way for it to come out. And it's the one on the outside corner right there. It just broke, so we're gonna have to figure out a way to get that out and move forward. I just want to show you guys a little bit of what we did while we were waiting on these parts. And as you can see, we got a few extra goodies. We powder coated the aluminum part of the intake manifold, refinished the fuel rail, and while we were at it, we polished up these runners on the intake manifold. As you can see, they're pretty smooth, polished up a little bit. Now we were very careful not to increase this opening. All right, we just focus on the inside and smoothing everything out, all the castings, everything. So we did that, and they look much better. Everything looks great. So we went ahead and pre-assembled this whole part with the fuel rail, the injectors, everything. We put everything back together, the metal clips. We went ahead and cleaned up the intake manifold, all the nooks and crannies with a brush, and got everything all cleaned up. Got the radiator hoses ready to go. Got some new clamps on there to get everything all nice and tidy. And another thing I ended up ordering was these 5mm wheel spacers from Titan Wheel Accessories. So these are 5mm spacers we're gonna put on the car. But the tricky thing with these is that Honda's the bore on the hub is 64.1 millimeters. And if you're running aftermarket wheels, most likely you're using one of these rings. These are the centering rings for any aftermarket wheels. All right, these things make sure the aftermarket wheel with the larger, diameter bore size, it's centered once it's on your wheel studs. So when you run the spacer, what you're doing is eliminating the area that this thing grabs onto. So what I learned was you can get a spacer that's got a bigger opening to avoid that, but those run pretty thin. I liked having something with a decent amount of backing. But to get one with a lip on there so you could put this on, you have to go a minimum of 12 millimeters. And I didn't want to go that thick with a spacer, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my local machine shop enlarge this opening so I can fit this in here. And if you look at the thickness, I'll still be able to run this and have some room for this to grab onto when I enlarge this hole. So got a little bit of a project doing that on the side. But on a better note, we got everything ready to go here. We got the thermal gasket. We went and refinished this piece. So that piece was a little bit rusty when I took it out of the thermostat housing. So we used some epoxy paint to finish off everything and get it all nice and tidy, cleaned up. We painted this bracket where the intake manifold rests on, and we just cleaned up everything that we could. Basically, I want to put it back together. I want everything to be nice and clean. Anything that was rusty, we're gonna put a new clamp on and just really make this whole engine bay pop. So I'm gonna get to work. I'll try to show you guys the step by step the process and getting things done. But first is, let me shine some light down there. That thermostat housing, that contact surface, we're gonna clean it up a little bit before we put the housing back on. And whenever you're doing this, make sure you order a new seal for that thermostat housing. It does not come with one, unlike the thermostat. The new thermostat right here has got a new rubber seal right here. It comes with it. The housing does not. So on the housing over here, no seal. You gotta order one separately. So replace it. It's cheap. Get that done and you'll be happy. No leaks. All right, so let's get to work. New seal. Go ahead, place it in here. Notice the seal's got this little bump. This is a guide that helps you locate it. See this little bump? Make sure you match that. That's how you know you have it on the right spot. It's that simple. And I want to show you guys, I mean, it helps to get new hardware. Like, these were terrible. These are stuck on there pretty hard. Show you guys what a new one looks like. So, new hardware always helps. Put some anesthesia on there. Make sure it stays lubricated so it does not get stuck and have this happen. Quick little update now. So we got the thermostat in. We got this line all fastened down. And I see some there. But we got it all fastened down. I suggest undoing this clamp to help removing this from the housing if you ever had to change it out. Also, so we got the Skunk 2 radiator hose. This one goes to the bottom, down there. So we got that all fastened down. So next step is, you guys, those look pretty clean. The next step is we're gonna clean this up a little bit, and then mount the intake manifold and continue moving forward. And don't forget, you got this hose here that's gonna go on there. That's connected to the aluminum part of the manifold, so get this one all set up to go in there when you're ready to install it. So after a little bit of progress, I'm gonna show you guys. We got this portion of the intake manifold buttoned down. There you guys can see the thermal gasket in there, and make sure you torque these over and over. Go around it multiple times, make sure everything is nice and tight. Once you have connected everything, make sure you connect the fuel line back up, the connectors, ground wires. Okay, so that is where we're at right now. Next up is the remaining portion of the intake manifold, and we're gonna get that installed right away. And you guys can already see how everything's gonna blend in pretty nice. Black with the other black plastic piece. It's gonna look pretty uniform. It's not gonna look like multiple colors. So hopefully in the end it flows pretty nice. But again, just make sure you guys you label all your nuts and bolts so you know where everything goes, and you know where everything is supposed to be. It helps when you make videos, that way you know what you took off, where you took it off, and how it's going to go back together. But make sure you go over all your work, check all the connectors, all the hose lines, any fittings. Make sure you don't leave anything unturned. We're almost there, guys. So make sure we got all the hoses fastened down there, those two connectors over there. And one recommendation is that those are a pain in the butt to remove, those two connectors over there. So best thing I recommend is removing the bracket held on by a 10mm bolt. Remove that bracket, give you a little bit more slack to undo those connectors. But you got everything buttoned down. We're gonna go over it again. I still got the connector for the intake, but other than that, I think we're all set. So I think this view looks much better compared to what it was before. It just looks much more cleaner to have the black plastic manifold buttoning up against the aluminum piece that's colored black. And you guys can see that it looks pretty nice and uniform. So yeah, I think we're gonna rock this look for quite some time. So last thing to do is get the intake installed, and then tomorrow we're gonna bleed the coolant, put the car down, and start it up. Hey guys, so it's the next morning. We got the car all buttoned up, and we got the intake back in. So we fastened down the under tray and everything in the car, and now we're getting ready to bleed it. and I'm pretty sure you guys have seen plenty of videos of this product. This is from OEM Tools. It's a leak-free radiator bleeding kit. So quickly show you, it comes with this giant funnel and all these adapters for vehicle specifics. You can use this on many different versions. So you find the right cap that's for your vehicle, slip in the right fitting, and keep pouring new radiator fluid until it's topped off. Oh, first of all, top off your reservoir, which on the ILX it's tucked in right behind the battery, right over there. Make sure that's full. The way you can tell is from underneath the car. When the plastic trim is off, there's two lines. Make sure it's at the top one. That's the one that's full. So after you top that off, get the radiator full to where you have some fluid up here. And you always want to make sure you have some fluid in here, because right now when we turn the car on, it's gonna start sucking it in. So what we're gonna do next is, hopefully it starts. We haven't started the car in a little while, but we're gonna start the car and get this process going. So let's get in the car. Now you want to turn this again, like we said, the lowest setting at the highest temperature. You just want to start checking for leaks. So this is a good thing. We're starting to see the bubbles. So all the air is coming out. Give it some gas. We're gonna keep this up until the car is in operating temperature. Make sure it doesn't overheat. Guys, I can't wait to drive this car. I feel like it's been forever since I've had this car on the road, and I'm so looking forward to getting this thing back out, driving it, having some fun with the car. As much as it's nice having a quiet daily driver like I have the CRV. I really miss this car. This car is a blast to drive. I enjoy it around town, and especially when we take it now to Gingerman Raceway in July, where we get to have fun all weekend running laps around that track. So like I said, after this we have just a few things left to do with the wheel spacers, which I dropped off at the machine shop today, and they're gonna go ahead and make the modifications that we need so we can fit the centering rings for the aftermarket wheels that we have in the car. And I believe next week I should have those back, and then we'll test fit the wheels again with that setup and see where we stand. Hopefully we're not gonna rub. I am running 245s right now, size tires, so that and a 35mm offset. So the car feels pretty planted, although the extra 5 mils I think will add just the final touches to the fitment of the wheels and the stance, and it's gonna look great and drive great. That's the most important part. But after that we have just believe the Carbotech brake pads we're gonna throw on before we go to the track. I really don't want a daily drive with those. I want to save those for events. So with that said, let's go check on the coolant level, see where it's at right now. Okay, a little troubleshooting with the car because we were having a hard time starting, and the only way the car would start was if there was a troubleshooting tool such as an OBD2 scanner tool plugged into the port, or your Ktuner or Flash Pro. That's the only way the car was starting. It would not turn over. It kept saying that it's not recognizing the key. Put the key up to the push start button. It was a hot mess and wasn't sure what was going on. So let me tell you what happened. Because we installed the thermal gasket here and the manifold is no longer touching on metal, it makes these ground cables that are connected to the manifold over here. So it's 2 ground cables. Those ground cables become pretty much useless because that thermal gasket acts as an insulator pretty much. So the car is confused pretty much. So what you're gonna have to do if you're gonna run a thermal gasket is you're gonna have to take those ground cables, and they do reach. I didn't extend them in any sort of way. You're gonna have to flatten out those little nubs and connect it to your intake manifold cover, and that will solve all of your problems. So it took a little while. I was unsure why the car wasn't starting when we went in, and I thought we had left any connectors undone or a bolt loose or any ground, but technically the only ground cables we messed with was those 2. And finally hit me and my friend who helped me out in figuring out this issue. He pointed out that manifold gasket is probably acting as an insulator. So yeah, you make sure you relocate those ground cables, and then you'll have no issues starting back up. So yeah, and I want to end this video by saying thank you to all the subscribers. The count has been going up, and I really appreciate all the subscriptions and all the positive feedback on all the videos that I've made so far. I'm hoping this content will help people in the car community, especially in the ILX community, which is small but growing. So I will continue to make all these videos and post anything that I can find to help improve the drivability, the reliability of these vehicles, and at the same time, any type of mod that you can do on it and go out there and have a good time, whether it is autocrossing, going to the track, everyday enjoyable street driving, whatever floats your boat. Hope you enjoy it. And again, thank you for all the subscriptions, and stay tuned for the next video.